What's up, everyone? So it's currently 2:14 on Election Day 2020. It's November 3rd, 2020. By the time I wake up tomorrow morning, which is technically today morning, votes are going to be coming in for either Joe Biden or Donald Trump, our two lovely, totally competent candidates that we have running for election this year. We're going to get to see, by the time I wake up in the morning, the votes come in live. We're going to see electoral probabilities, but for now, I'm just going to predict whatever I can. Right here we have an RCP map. It's basically filled out with whatever polling averages RCP has collected over time for each state. I don't have a problem with anything on this map. Everything in gray is a toss-up, which means it could hypothetically go either way. We're going to leave this as is, and then we're going to start going through each of the swing states, and we're going to figure out who's going to win what and make our predictions for tomorrow. Keep in mind with all sorts of different types of things, such as voter suppression court cases, everything like that. This election's not going to be normal. It's not. We're not going to know for a long time who wins, so everyone's got to just be patient. But there's a lot of things factoring into the decision as to who's going to be president, what votes are going to be counted. I may comment on it sometimes. I may throw that factor into some of my analysis, but I'm not going to make these decisions based on what hypotheticals I could create or what predictions I could make because that's just near impossible, especially with what's going on. So essentially, what we're going to do, we're going to be starting with some of the more obvious states. Texas. There's a lot of hype about Biden taking Texas, Texas turning blue. They tried that in 2018 with Beto O'Rourke, who was a much more charismatic, much more unifying figure in that state than Biden. It didn't work whatsoever. It was close, but it didn't work. Texas isn't turning blue, no matter how many people travel there, especially with the polling averages recently. I think that Trump is going to take Texas. Georgia as well. I think that Trump is going to take Georgia. Again, you've got a southern red state who isn't necessarily the biggest fan of Trump's behavior, but with all the violence in Atlanta, with all the economic hardship that they're going through in the South in terms of trade, with all of that, I think that Trump's going to win. If we want to get deeper into Georgia, it's a swing state right now, and it could go either way, especially because of the margins of error for every single poll. But I really don't think that Biden's going to take Georgia, and early voting suggests otherwise as well. Here we can see, you can see at max, right? Trump is up 4, Biden's up 4. It's a monmouth poll having Biden up 4, but that's a few weeks ago. They're all within the margin of error. Nothing is outside the margin of error. It's very close, but the fact that Trump has been leading closer to election day, I think that that's a good sign for him, especially because Trump usually performs as the underdog due to the silent vote. So I really think that Trump is going to win Georgia. Moving up to Ohio, Trump, I believe, also is going to win Ohio. Biden's kind of backed off Ohio. He knows he's not going to get it. Trump knows he is going to get it. He's polling. I think he was +6 the other day. So I think that Trump's going to grab Ohio. We're going to go to Minnesota. There's a lot of talk also on the Republican side. Oh, Minnesota's going to turn red. The riots, the looting. No, that's happening everywhere. It's not going to change the color of the state. Minnesota hasn't voted red since, I don't remember actually, 1970 something, right? So Minnesota's going to stay blue. Wisconsin also. Wisconsin is a key state for Trump, but he lost it. He had his chance to capitalize it. He lost it. Biden's going to take Wisconsin. He's up way too much in the polls. I try not to use the polls as my final basis for who I think is going to win, but I can absolutely assure you that Biden will win Wisconsin because he's absolutely running away in the polls. If we go to real clear politics, Wisconsin, Trump versus Biden, again, you could see, right? These margins of errors between 3 something, 4.7, right? We've got 6.7, 8, 10, 11, 8. Again, it may be closer than people think. I believe it's closer than people think. It's definitely not a runaway for Biden, but I do not think Trump has a chance of coming back, especially with some of these polls right here, right? You have Susquehanna poll has him up 3. So that, for example, right, Republican poll throwing him up 3, that's a problem for him, and I think that Trump's not going to get it. I think that Trump kind of blew a shot when he went up there after what happened in Kenosha. He had his chance, and I think the white nationalist stuff going on up there is really scaring some people, and Biden's been going there, and I think he's going to win Wisconsin. What's next? Up here, we'll give Biden his district right here in Nebraska. We'll give Trump this district in Maine. They're both close, right? You've got Nebraska. You've got Biden up 50-46, but as you can see, right, this last few days, very close. It's getting very close, and there's not much polling out of this district. You've got October 31st, Emerson has Biden up 3. That's pretty close. There's a chance Trump could take it, but for the sake of this argument, we'll say that Biden takes it. And for Maine, we could do the same thing, Lexon, out of that. For Maine, we could see again, this is very close, very, very close. Trump won this last year, I believe. You have polling right here out of Emerson, Biden +3, same thing. Survey USA, Biden +3. Suffolk +1. This is a couple months ago, right? But either way, it's not enough to safely declare this Biden territory. I think that Trump gets it. I think that Trump gets it overall, and I think that the Republicans that support Susan Collins and the Republicans that are happy with the Supreme Court are going to show up and vote for Trump. So I think next we're going to go to Florida. I think Trump's going to win Florida. There's a lot of talk about the Hispanic vote in Florida coming out in droves to support Trump, especially in Miami-Dade County. There's a lot of talk about nervous Democrats in terms of Florida performance. I believe that early voting results came back 39% Democrat, 37% Republican. That's not good a sign for Democrats, not at all. They're anticipated to clobber Republicans at the early vote. If they're only winning by 2%, right, that's not good for them. If we want to reinforce this, because Florida is a critically important state, if we go to the RCP average, what the hell's going on here? If we go to the RCP averages for Florida, we'll put that up in here. Done with this, Wisconsin, goodbye. We put the RCP up in Florida, and you can kind of see that there's a variation of polls, but again, none of them is a blowaway, right? You've got Biden +4, he's up 5.0. No, my bad, he's up 4 with a margin of error 5.0. It's a Reuters poll, it's a good poll, but that's not enough. And I really don't think that being up 5, quite honestly, or 4, either way, is enough to kind of account for the silent Trump vote. If you look at this one, there's a Quinnipiac poll, big sample size, small margin of error. That's a problem. That's a very solid poll for Biden in terms of +5. But again, I don't think it's enough. And I still think that Trump is going to win Florida, especially with, again, that silent vote in the Hispanic community, right? I think that there's that. And I think that there's in person. You could see, actually, this is, what's the exact date on this drop right here? What's going on? Yeah, here you go. You've got October 27th. You've got Trump kind of overtakes him, and then he starts dipping again, but so does Biden. These are interchangeable. This is not. That is something to look out for. And then I believe this is a post-debate dip for Trump. So you can see he kind of recovers from it. Biden's dropping. Trump's kind of getting up there, going back and forth. But I really think Trump takes Florida. And that's a critical state. And again, we don't know what's going to happen with voting counts. That's probably going to be contested very hotly by both sides. But we'll have to see. He's got Ron DeSantis on his side. So I think that Marco Rubio, Tim Scott. So I think that Rick Scott. So I think that that's going to be a problem for Biden to overcome. I think that the hype's around Trump. Let's go North Carolina next. I think Trump's taking North Carolina too. I think it's a southern state. I think that there's a silent Trump vote there that people aren't discussing. I think that in terms of supporting him, I think they're not as vocal in the mail-in process, the early voting process, but I think they'll show up tomorrow. I think he's going to take the 15. Again, here are the polls, very close, right? Extremely close. You've got Trump with the bigger lead, the biggest of them all, +4. Biden's only got his highest lead is +2, right? Not only does that not cap off the margin of error, so, they're basically identical to each other in terms of value, right? You have the Rasmussen report for Trump that has him up +1. It's obviously, if you go to 538, they've got him at a R plus 1.5 bias. Again, that's something to worry about that Trump's only up 1. But regardless, you're going to be incredibly close in North Carolina. I'm not sure how the legality of it's going to work. You've got Democratic governor. You've got Senate race going on between Tom Tillis and Cal Cunningham right now. I think Trump's going to take it. I think if you look at this, you've got Biden up here. You have him drop, right? And he starts to kind of steadily climb, but Trump's on his tail. And I think that this is the point that Biden had to kind of kill him. But it didn't work. And I think that Trump's going to take North Carolina. So that's a critical state for Trump. Everyone's talking Pennsylvania. I disagree. I think North Carolina is absolutely, you're kidding. Okay, great. I think North Carolina is absolutely essential for Trump. And I think that that's the key because Trump could let Pennsylvania go and still win if he plays his cards correctly. So we've got Trump cleaning up the South. I believe I said Ohio already. Minnesota, I'm pretty sure I said we're going to do blue. Iowa. Trump is going to win Iowa. There's no debate around this one. I feel like if you take a look at the latest Des Moines Register poll, you've got Trump up +7, and this is an on-the-ground state poll. This is not national. This is a critical one, and this is recent support for Trump, basically swarming in during the election process. Here you go, right? +7. You've still got that 3.4% margin of error, but overall, it's not, you really can't get past that if you're Biden. He had a lead, the lead left, and essentially Trump's going to take Iowa. He's been actually very smart of him, quite honestly, talking about all the farmers, subsidizing them, coronavirus. It's going to rile them up. It's going to get them out to the polls. Trump's going to take Iowa. That's 6 votes. That's critical. Another 6 vote state will go Nevada. I'm torn. I have to add this first. I'm very, very torn about Nevada because it is a blue state historically. It does lean blue, but I just have a gut feeling that Trump could take it. You know, we'll go back to that. We're going to go Arizona. Trump's going to take Arizona, I feel like, as well, right? This is a contested one. This is really hotly discussed because out in Arizona, right, after the legacy of John McCain and everything else, they really do not like Trump out there. Arizona's not big on Trump. Martha McSally is just getting absolutely slaughtered in terms of her Senate race. But out here, you've got Trump up 3 points and 4 points, and you've got Biden up 6, right? In a New York Times Siena poll, great poll, but it's a little high. The rest of them, you've got 2, 2, 3, 6. Oh, we said 6 already, right? You've got a tie actually from the NBC News Marist poll. That's very telling because again, who's gonna have more voters that refuse to talk about how they feel, Trump or Biden? Obviously Trump. So anything between, in my opinion, a tie to 3, I think that Trump could definitely cap it out with his silent vote. I think he's going to win, right? This Rasmussen poll, I don't take this one too seriously because, again, it's got that 1.5 plus bias for Republicans according to 538. But I don't think that the +2 is enough, especially with this margin of error. You've got a 5.0, right? That's a little much for me. If you take a look here, right, it's all about this. It's all about the momentum. You see Biden just drop in the last few weeks. You see Trump match him, right? He led the other day. He's back down. Again, this doesn't say everything. This doesn't mean anything. There's a legality of it in terms of that Senate race, right? How much they decide to mobilize between Mark Kelly, see what happens with McSally. But I really think that, again, just his momentum, that says it all. You've got down here, the man's at +5, and then he's down, right? And then he gets back up. But I think the silent vote will count for that, and I think that Trump's going to take it. We'll go to Nevada now. Again, tough one. I'm going to throw it to Trump because I think that Nevada is different in terms of how they're feeling right now about the shutdowns and about some of the policies that they perceive to be radical in terms of Biden, right? Maybe shutdown policies, mask mandates, right? They are completely dependent on their gambling industry, their casino industry. And Trump has been talking about that. He's been talking up that point. I don't think well enough, but he's been doing an okay job. I think this is a very winnable state for him. Again, you've got these polls right here. You've got a 3.6 average. I don't know, I just feel like this is another instinct one, but you see him drop, 6-2, right? You've got 11th, 6-2-2. I'm not so sure. This is a close one. They're all within the margin of error, besides for the 6s, but they haven't been here since the 26th. Yeah, this is tough. I think this is a very winnable state for Trump. I'm not sure how the legislative process is going to go. I think that the silent vote's going to count for this one. I'll leave it red. I think Trump's going to take it. So we're at 265, right? Trump is pretty close to winning at this point. I don't think so. I think that, again, I don't know what I said before this whole freaking thing or race, but Wisconsin's going to be blue. Michigan's going to be blue. We're going to take a look at both of those states real quick because, again, I'm not sure if I did them or not, but it's almost guaranteed that Wisconsin's going to be taken by Biden at this point. The polling +8, +10, way outside the margin of error. Here we go with Michigan, right? You can see here, Trump's gone up a lot lately, actually, which could be a concern for Biden, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Biden's going to take it. I think Gretchen Whitmer is a huge asset to Joe Biden. I think that people like her. I think people are disturbed by some of the extremism coming out of Michigan. So again, these polls are pretty recent, 29, 30th, 31st. You've got Biden 772 and then 7. This poll has a small sample size, doesn't have margin of error. I'm kind of concerned about this poll right here. I'm not going to necessarily take it with a ton of legitimacy. The Reuters poll, right? It's a little old, but +10, that's pretty insurmountable. I think that Biden's going to take it. Trump's gaining. Trump's got a lot of momentum going on. Another close one. These states, none of these states are close. I think the only ones that are going to be a quote unquote blowout, which will still be pretty close, are maybe Texas and Iowa, but I really think that they're going to be very close. And here we're at the big point, right? 253, 265, Pennsylvania. This is a tough one. Not like, oh my God, Pennsylvania is just going to be a mess this year with all the recounts stopping and starting and the riots going on right now. There's a lot going on. And we're going to take a look at these polls real quick before I put my final decision. I already know what I'm thinking, but I'm not going to put it in just yet. You see, Biden's leads in Pennsylvania are not necessarily insurmountable for Trump. He's up 2.6 in the overall spread. But again, if you take a look at these polls, right, you've got these margins of error between 2.9, 4.4, right? Biden's kind of outside the margin of error, but again, that's not really what's relevant in terms of the Trump vote, because the margin of error is not even as big as the silent vote in some cases, especially in Pennsylvania. I don't necessarily buy the hype by a lot of Republicans and a lot of conservative media that all Pennsylvania is in Trump's corner. I don't see it just yet. Here you go. You see a lot of buildup for Trump. If we find the debate where Biden said he was going to ban oil, controversy around fracking, right? You kind of get to this point right here where you do see a spike. You do see things change up a little bit, and you see Biden start to go down a bit. You see Trump start to go up. I think that this one is honestly going to be decided not by the people themselves, but by the courts. People are going to figure out what to do with these voting recounts. They're going to figure out what to do and who's suppressing who and all that nonsense. This is a tough one. The way I kind of decided is Rasmussen. Again, we've been pointing to Rasmussen over and over. You've got the 3.5 margin of error, and you have a 1.5% bias in terms of Republican candidates per 538, as mentioned before. Biden is still up 3. And if Biden is up 3 in a Republican pollster who, as you can see here, if we go look, right, one of them is clearly much bigger than everything else. So this is tough. I think a lot of it is going to be decided by the courts. I think a lot of it's going to be decided in the legal process, and I think it's going to be the last state decided. I'm going to throw it to Biden. And again, I'm not saying that Biden is going to win the presidency, even though this map suggests he does. I don't know what the hell is going to go on. No one knows what the fuck is going to happen. This world is going to be just absolutely upended by the next few weeks and few months. But what I can say is I do believe that Joe Biden will win the Electoral College. However, if we're going to do this while we're here, we might as well. You could switch these states around. Some of the more questionable states. We'll throw Nevada to the Democrats, and let's throw something at Trump too, just in case. What did we say? Michigan before? Let's throw Trump, Michigan, right? At this point, you've got Trump winning, and Michigan's worth 16. Throw that back. Give him Wisconsin. You've got a tie. And this is what people don't talk about often. This is a very, very possible situation. You could have it switched up so Iowa is blue and Nevada's back red. And boom, you've got a tie. And then it becomes one vote right here, Nevada. One vote right here, Maine. They begin to offset each other. So I think that at the end of the day, the map is going to end up looking like this, as I had it before. I think that Biden's going to clean up in the north up here. I think that that's one of Trump's errors. He kind of fucked around way too much up there. I think that he could have taken it very quickly. He didn't. I think that one of Biden's errors is Biden is pretty convincing in terms of Pennsylvania. He was up there, right? If we go back to his polling average, where's Pennsylvania? Here we go. Look at his drop. He had a very good chance. He decided to spew some nonsense about oil. Whether you agree with it or not, it's not going to get you any votes. And there's a lot of Trump supporters who are pissed off out there, especially with the riots going on right now and with all the political nonsense in terms of vote calculation. So, you're kidding. Holy shit. This is absurd. Anyway, why don't we just do a different... No, you know what? We're going to end this shit right here. We're going to put everything... It's 2:34. I got to go to bed. It's 2:34, and I'm doing this right now. I'm predicting the election tomorrow, which I will not find out tomorrow. But put everything back the way it was before. You've got Iowa right here. You've got Minnesota blue. Still, you've got one vote right here. You've got one right here. It's a very close race. There's a variety of combinations, right? But realistically speaking, I think at the end of the day, Joe Biden squeaks out an electoral college victory. on the back of Pennsylvania a couple days after everything else. Those are my final predictions. Again, we'll see what happens. God knows when we'll see what happens, but we will, and hopefully we make it through everything, regardless of who wins this presidency.